Hi, I'm Saj Rambab, one of the respiratory therapists at Morlen Health,
And I'm Ed Birnbaum. I'm also a respiratory therapist with Morlen Health Pulmonary Rehab Program.
and welcome to our class. And we're going to get the presentation started here in just a second.
So the topic today that we're going to be addressing is managing shortness of breath. And you see the title of this slide is Work of Breathing. Work of breathing? Yes, actually, we are doing work to breathe. We're rarely aware of it if we don't have chronic lung disease. But it does take energy. It involves using muscles. What's different about people with chronic lung disease that they are really feeling the work to breathe? They need to work harder to breathe, and they have less energy and strength with which to breathe. So how do chronic lung diseases increase the work of breathing? Most chronic lung diseases break down into two different types, and we'll go into just a little bit of detail about what it is about each of those that makes it harder to breathe and increases the work of breathing. So with obstructive lung diseases, COPD, asthma are the two most common ones that affect the most people. Well, with COPD, there are floppy, collapsing airways, the bronchial tubes that the air has to go through, just don't stay open as much as they should. So it's harder for air to get through. With asthma and often with COPD, those airways tighten up. Muscle tissue around those bronchial tubes tightens up and they're smaller. It's harder to move the air. Very often, people have mucus blocking the flow. It's harder to get the air out. Once the air gets in, you're working harder to move the air out and can't always get enough of it out between breaths to feel comfortable. Stale air gets trapped in, taking up too much room in the lungs. So that leaves less room for the good air to get in. And then the lungs push down on the diaphragm when there's so much of that stale air trapped in there. The diaphragm is your major breathing muscle. It's just under your lungs, and the lungs pushing down on that diaphragm leaves less room to move the air and in and out, and you're working harder. Now, with restrictive lung diseases, and you might hear if you are afflicted by one of those, the word interstitial might be in the name of the diagnosis, or fibrotic or fibrosis. But those lungs are stiffer. It's harder to expand the lungs. The alveoli, the air sacs, which is where the air gets in for the oxygen to get into the bloodstream, and then the carbon dioxide to come back into those air sacs, and then you empty your lungs to get the stale air out. They don't open up as well or work as well. And then breathing tends to be fast and shallow and less efficient because of all that.
And with COPD and asthma, so the obstructive components, when the airway tightens up and it causes that constriction, you'll sometimes hear the term wheezes. And that's what causes the wheezing, is the constriction of the airway. So it's more of a musical sound. So it's like a high pitch noise on inspiration and expiration. And that's the type of breath sound that's common with like an asthma attack or even like a COPD flare up when your airways tighten up.
Right. So when all is said and done and you're having all those issues of one kind or another, what's the impact on people, on you or the people that you care about? Well, one of those can be deconditioning, and that's almost always that happens because when you're short of breath, you're less active. Any activity that you engage in, even just doing normal things, um, is harder, makes you short of breath, so you do less. And when you do less, you get weaker because you don't use your muscles, and they get weaker from disuse. And the sum total of all this is deconditioning. And we tend to have, when we're short of breath, we have less efficient, inefficient breathing patterns. And we usually don't think about how to breathe. That's supposed to come naturally. But when the natural breathing is harder, without a strategy, we breathe in ways that make us even more short of breath, wasting energy by pushing, by rushing, poor pacing, lack of planning. That makes you less active. That's a consequence. And finally, shortness of breath causes in anybody anxiety and panic. It's not because you're an anxious or panicky person. It just happens as a natural consequence of being short of breath. So that makes being anxious and panicking makes us even more short of breath. So all of these are ways in which uh, shortness of breath affects us. But these are all ways in which we can have an impact and work on improving in all these areas. So the effect of this slide should not be, oh my gosh, what can I do about all this? But these are things we can do something about. And that's the purpose of this presentation.
Yeah, so the terms that are mentioned on the slide, decondition, inefficient, wasting, shortness of breath, those all have negative connotations to them. But I look at it as an opportunity. These are areas where we can break this cycle and where we can improve on them. And that's exactly what Ed was talking about. These are what the potential problems are, but there's also opportunities for us to correct it and to break these negative things from happening or becoming so severe.
Right. Taking a downward spiral into a virtuous circle. So you've heard of, we talk about vicious spirals, right? And then there are virtuous spirals or circles. Let's compare these. So on the downward spirals, poor conditioning, uncontrolled, inefficient breathing, wasted energy, uncontrolled anxiety. So one thing leads to another. They all make us worse. Look on the positive side there. Good conditioning can lead to and more efficient breathing, conserving energy, controlling anxiety. When we put all these together, then we're in an upward, virtuous circle or spiral, and things get better. Now, let's talk about each of those in turn. So, we talked about deconditioning and conditioning. Exercising can improve conditioning. Any exercise. There's almost no study. They've done study after study about how much you need to exercise to improve. Well, how about 1 day a week? And most recently, they found 1 day a week actually helps. Maybe not as much as every day, but it really helps from week to week. Start where and when you can. It's hard to get started when any activity makes you shorter breath. It might feel like, oh, how can I exercise? Getting out of this chair is hard. Start where and when you can. Low and slow, very gradually and comfortably work up. That helps to transform the cycle from downward to virtuous cycle. Doing more makes you stronger, and being stronger helps you do more. Find activities you like to do. It doesn't have to be unpleasant to be exercise or to be helpful. Anything you do helps. So do something you enjoy. Start somewhere. Any activity can be exercise, even if you don't call it exercise. And one little tip or promotion of pulmonary rehab. Saj and I work in a pulmonary rehabilitation program at Morlen Health. Rehab is we will help you get started. Any rehab program, wherever you are, can get you started and help you moving forward. It almost always is helpful for people with chronic lung disease.
And just to add to that, any activity, like I mentioned, can be considered exercise. So even activities of daily living, so getting up and vacuuming the floor or sweeping the kitchen or doing dishes. So any type of activity can be considered exercise. So when you're thinking about it or talk to your provider about it or your caregiver or to your respiratory therapist about it, make sure you quantify whether it's actual exercise, if you are somebody who's able to jog and go to the gym, do those things, yes, of course, that's called exercise. But you can also mention activities of daily living as exercise as well. So I get up and I go get the mail, and I'm able to clean up the house and do the dishes and vacuum and sweep and do various activities that are not classically called exercise. But remember, they are exercise.
That's very important. Thank you for adding that, Saj. What do we mean by efficient breathing patterns? Well, pursed lip diaphragmatic or abdominal belly breathing, that is much more efficient than raising your shoulders up to get extra air in and then pushing it out really, really hard and breathing as fast and deep as you can. That's inefficient. When it's comfortable, it's actually better for you. Try it. When you start feeling better, you've got it. Start by practicing breathing techniques when you're not doing anything. It may be hard to do on the fly when you're trying to get some work done of some kind and you're out of breath. Try it when you don't need to do it and get really comfortable with it, more where it starts to become second nature, and then try it with activity. So when you're carrying groceries or washing dishes or something like that. Now, the graphics we have on here should actually be helpful. Let's take a quick look at them. So there's one called laminar and turbulent flow. What do we mean by that? So when you're breathing more efficiently, pursing your lips together as you breathe out, then the air moves more smoothly. The molecules aren't bumping into each other so much, and it's actually using less effort, and it's more comfortable. Using your diaphragm rather than what we call accessory muscles. So accessory muscles would be like lifting your shoulders up to try to get more air in. That takes way more effort than the any benefit. Using your abdominal muscles and your diaphragm in particular, just above your stomach and under your lungs. That is the most efficient breathing muscle. Takes the least amount of work, the least amount of effort. When you get more comfortable doing that, you're breathing more comfortably, all in all, and using less effort, less oxygen, and more bang for the buck. And we'll move on and talk about that in a little more detail.
And the real problem when you become short of breath, if you become short of breath, is that it's common to open your mouth and take real deep breaths in. And that's what causes that turbulent, like not smooth flow. And you have to initially make the effort to be like, hey, let me calm down and let me do the pursed lip breathing. And when you do that pursed lip breathing and you've done it enough, it becomes second nature, and it makes your breathing, your shortness of breath so much better. If there's one take home point that we can say, is that pursed lip breathing really, really helps a lot. If that's the one thing you take from us, from this program or for this topic, then we've done our job.
Right. Energy conservation and management. So when you have less energy overall, you should conserve it so that you are getting the things done that you really want to do and need to do, and wasting less effort. So be strategic, pace yourself, never rush. Slow and easy wins the race. Prioritize, set goals, plan for what you can do realistically. If you put too many things on your plate, what's most likely is that you won't get any of them done. So prioritize, start getting used to picking the things that you are most important for you to do and most realistic. As you slowly get better conditioned, and you will, okay, you really, really will. We see this all the time. You can add to your activities when you're ready. So maybe the first week of this new way of doing things, you try to do one thing every day, just one thing that's most important. As you get stronger, more comfortable, you can add to 2 or 3, but take it pace yourself, take it, plan for what you're going to do, and make activities easier rather than giving up. So, oh man, I can't even take a shower. If you put a chair in the shower, and they make them for that, by the way, then you can get it done. If you love gardening, but bending over is really hard, you get shorter breath. That diaphragm has less room to move. That's one reason why bending over is so hard. Then, if you can get the flower bed raised up, like this fella has done here in the picture, he's standing up and gardening, and he's enjoying it. You see? So, using strategy, conserving, managing.
And a couple of other real life examples when I did home care. We had a gentleman who got really short of breath and subsequently was on home oxygen, but he had some stairs and then a little landing and then more stairs going up to his bedroom. And we found that he was really short of breath by the time he got to the first set. So what we did was we put a chair, like a pretty small chair, right there on that landing, so he could go up the stairs, sit down, do some pursed lip breathing, get his energy and oxygen level back up, and then continue up the stairs. So we gave him that little island there basically to sort of recoup and get better. And as he was able to do that, he ended up not needing to sit down. And he would tell us, he's like, hey, listen, I took the chair out because I don't need it anymore. I've conditioned myself up. I've gotten to the point where I can just walk all the way up the stairs, doing the pursed lip breathing, taking it easy, not rushing, not needing to take a break. So Ed's completely right. So be strategic, plan your day. If you know you're going out in the morning and there's certain things you need to take to the car, maybe take one thing at a time the day before that can stay in the car, leave them in the car so you're not rushing. So you don't forget something and rush back into the house to get it. And then when you rush, you get shorter breath and then it makes it worse and then you get more anxious. So just try to make sure you plan things out as well in advance as possible. And so you're able to do these activities that you need to accomplish in a smooth, safe, and a calm way.
Those are wonderful examples. Now, and what an improvement in quality of life, not being able to get up to that second story. I mean, that's just awful. Being able to get there is such an improvement. And then he was climbing the stairs more often because he was able to make it. He got stronger. And that's a good example of conditioning, a virtuous circle, right? A virtuous cycle. Moving, everything gets better. Practice slowing down. Why do we say practice slowing down? Because all of us have had years of practice of doing the opposite. We live in a hurry up culture, don't we? We work more and faster. We even play more and faster, right? The emphasis is always on more, faster, faster. And then instinctively, sometimes we rush. If It's not something that people think through, but we see it all the time where they hold their breath and try to get to the wherever they're going before they run out of air. It's not, saying that sounds ridiculous, but that's what we do instinctively. It's sort of if we don't think about it, that's what we end up doing, and it doesn't work. So try slowing down, stopping or pausing before you're out of breath, and then resume. Okay, instead of holding your breath, you get to halfway there, you take a pause, then you go the rest of the way and repeat until you get there or get done. Practice. This is something we have to practice until it feels natural and second nature. It takes practice, but then you've got it.
Another point to this is if you have a family or friends, a partner, some buddies are coming over, and they're not at the same level that you are, and they like to move around, do things a little faster, just remind them to say, hey, can we slow this down a little bit? I need a little bit more time. Be patient with me. And so, you don't feel rushed. Most of the times, your friends, families, and loved ones will understand that and give you that leeway to take that extra time. And if they're the people that just don't, they're always rushing around and doing this and that, you can be like, hey, listen, you do your thing. I'm going to do mine. I'll meet you here. I'll meet you there. But don't try to meet somebody else's pace. You have to set your own pace and be able to be comfortable with your pace And then slowly over time, you can pick up your pace. But don't ever feel pressured to do something at somebody else's pace, because you have to take ownership of your own process and your process of getting better. And if you rush yourself, you could have a setback that could put you two steps back. And we don't want that to happen. So slow and easy wins the race. We'll say this over and over again. And so it's important to remember that, and people will understand if you tell them that. I know it's difficult to say it, but it's very important that you say it if people don't already pick up on that and do that before you even have to ask for it.
Great advice. And learn to better control anxiety and panic. Again, I'm going to say it's not because we think that you're all panicky or anxious people. This is something that is a natural response to shortness of breath. But learning to control that anxiety, and it can be controlled, and panic, controlling it reduces oxygen consumption and wasted energy. You want to reverse that fight or flight natural response to shortness of breath. Go to your safe place. Almost everybody has one, some place where you've actually been. Almost everybody will pick, if asked to pick where their safe place is, they'll say, oh, the coast or some beach, but it might be a meadow. It might be some religious place that you go to. But when you're there, when you've been there, someplace you've actually been, you feel relaxed. Thinking about it makes you feel relaxed. The image of it makes you feel relaxed. Certain sounds that you associate with it, like the surf, make you feel more comfortable and safe. Go there by concentrating on the last time you were there. There are images, smells, sounds that bring it back to you. Combine that with the pursed lip breathing and energy conservation you've been practicing. We end up using a lot of energy, a lot of oxygen on mental processes. The brain actually uses a lot of energy. You want to reduce that by controlling those negative emotions, those negative responses. You see in the pictures there, that one fellow, he's also physically tightening up compared to the woman who's relaxed. That's where you want to be.
In some other techniques to control anxiety and panic is, Ed mentioned it, meditating. Some people it's praying, could be reading a book, could be looking at your fish tank. There has been studies where looking at a fish tank can lower your blood pressure. Whatever it is that puts you in that right mindset and calms you down, go ahead and do it, or think about it, read it, listen to it, whatever it is. If it helps control your anxiety and panic, then it's great.
Right. So again, more about fight or flight is something I think most people are familiar with the idea now. We run away, we fly away from danger, we fight it, or we run away from it. But that takes energy, that takes oxygen, and produces carbon dioxide as a waste product. So it works for running away from a lion. You either want to run away from and climb a tree, or beat them with a stick. That's okay when a predator's after you. It doesn't work for getting away from shortness of breath. Just makes it worse. Find your safe place, go there, put it all together, okay? And use the belly breathing, the pursed lip breathing. Practice that for shorter and then longer times until it's natural, and try it while you're active and whenever you're short of breath, or whenever doing any kind of activity. Let's move on. So this puts it all together. Plan and strategize, learn and practice, get help. Another promotion for pulmonary rehabilitation. If you have access to that when you have chronic lung disease, that's a good idea. If you've already done it, don't relapse. All the things that you learned in pulmonary rehab, use them in your daily life. And it really, really, really works. We see it all the time. There are people doing it right now. You can do it.
Thank you so much for taking the time to watch the video today. Please, if you want more information, go to morlenhealth.com.
Right. Thank you again for your attention to this very important topic that we've been very happy to share with you.